So there's two things I want to talk about. First is property. The others is cars. So property, what is your thoughts on buying versus selling? I know you can probably go into a lot of detail.
Yeah.
But I guess very briefly, how would you put it to people when they're trying to decide what they should do?
Buy versus sell, buy versus
rent.
Very briefly, okay. Yeah, because there's so many moving parts to it. But if you are approaching the buy versus rent scenario question, if you are living or want to live in that place for more than 7 years, I would say buy.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are so many other costs that come with buying a house: stamp duty, legal fees, accountancy fees, surveyor if you need it. These add up. Even when you're buying a new house, you also have to buy all the new furniture that comes with it. If you're staying there or thinking to move within 3 or 4 years, the cost of all of those eats up into the gain or the equity that you're building on that house.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I say 7 years. It's long enough to have all those costs kind of average out across that time span. The renting option, if you are building a business or you have a great investment opportunity, or you need the money for something where you can get a better return, then rent, because there's a 20%. Okay, now we've introduced a 1% deposit in the UK, but generally speaking, there is a 15 to 20% deposit that you need to put down for housing. So less than 7 years, or if you need the money for something else, then rent. Also, if you put it into a tracker or index fund that tracks the S&P 500, you're probably going to get more from that than you would in the gain in property, the way the market's going at the moment.
So am I right in guessing that you haven't purchased a property yet?
I have. My home in London. Yeah. But I also do, a lot of the properties that I've bought were at the start of my career.
Properties.
Yeah.
Plural. Nice.
But they were all in, as soon as I started, first couple of years in banking was just a shit show. I was spending everything. But you could get a 2-bed flat in North London, in Enfield or Edmonton for like £180,000.
What year was this?
2015.
Yeah.
Now that same place is £400,000. And with all the regulations, the tide is against landlords at the moment. So unless you're doing something creative, a simple buy-to-let property is, in my opinion, just not the way to go right now.
You think that's just London, or you think worldwide?
Yeah, London. I'm not familiar with the rest of the
I think it's
country,
definitely
London.
it's a trending thing here in Dubai. To either, I know a lot of people are buying off plan, the cash they have, waiting a few years, and then selling it, and they can almost double their money. Because I think there's a lot, especially past few years, there's a lot of people who come to Dubai that have money and they just want to move into something straight away.
I've seen a lot of properties here though sit on the market for a good while. I'm not familiar with it, but is it just because there's specific areas that people are after?
I think, yeah. So, I mean, London is more safe and reliable because the areas tend to just stay the same.
Yeah.
They're not changing over time.
Right.
And it's very like central. Like there is the center of London and then it goes out.
Yeah.
Dubai, you have like different spots and areas which they kind of become not so trendy and not so popular anymore. They build a brand new resort. That seems to be like the new place everybody wants to be. There's always, I would say, on the safe side, if you're by water or if you're on the coast, like this place, like it's always going to retain its value. And I think most importantly, the closer you are to the water, the better. So nobody is going to build something out in front of you. I think that's, in the UK, there's a lot of red tape as to what you can build and you can't build. You can't build something over a certain height. That's why everyone's going down into cellars. And then even if they want to build skyscrapers, like there's literally so many regulations and processes they have to go through. And most of them don't even get the green light anyway. Whereas in Dubai, they're just like, yeah, go for it, put it up. And then they put it up and like, you have spent millions on this property because of this amazing view of maybe it's the Burj Khalifa or maybe it's the water. And then they're like, yeah, we're going to build another one in front of it. And there's like nothing you can do about it. And there's actually, I knew of people who have villas on the Palm. They spent millions on these villas at the Palm and had a beautiful view of the marina. And then they started building the Dubai Harbour. So all these skyscrapers were being built, which completely destroy the view. And to me, the most important thing when it comes to a property is the view. I don't want anybody messing with my view. So I need to have some kind of guarantee that at least I'm going to be able to hold on to that view long into the future.
As long as you can. That's why the closest you are.
Yeah.
There's photos of I don't know if you've seen it on Google or they're everywhere, but of Dubai literally 20 years ago versus now. This skyline did not exist.
Yeah. It's
building left, right, and centre. It's just not very not many regulations, or it's not hard to get planning. Clearly,
my approach when it comes to property is I don't mind getting into it, investing it, but I don't want anything that's going to give me headache or stress. And some people say to me, "Oh no, it'll be fine. You can just hire people to run it for you. You can hire estate agents to, sell it out to people." And I'm like, it's still not as straightforward as that. Like there is always some element of headache, and I'm at a point right now where I don't want to deal with that headache.
Yeah.
And even though it is potentially a lucrative avenue that you can go down, but I also have a lot of opportunities at this point in time, which can also provide me with pretty lucrative opportunities with less headache. So I'm going to go for that. Yeah. And this money, which I have saved, I could put it on property, or I could put it into this thing, which is going to be realistically a lot more lucrative.
Better return, and probably shorter in time as well. You probably make the money in 2 years, 3 years, versus property, you'd have to hold it for a long time to see the 18-year cycle.
I think a lot of people who are listening just need to be aware that the world has changed, particularly from like 20 years ago.
Yeah. So
all the parents saying, "Oh, you should do this, you should buy a house," that's not quite the same anymore. And then, it's you'll find there's a lot of not so honest people who are saying, "Oh, this is what you should do. Like, I'm an estate agent. Like, trust me, this is the right thing to do." And then, of course they want that because they're getting big fat commission off the sale.
Of course. Like, think about who's giving you advice and what their vested interest is in it. Mm-hmm. I always personally think it's nice owning your own home. Mm-hmm. Just having that comfort of knowing this is yours. You could do whatever you want. You could change it around. Don't have to ask permission from anyone. So there's always that psychological comfort of having a home. But at the same time, if you're moving around, if you don't even know where you are, then rent, because I don't see a home as an investment anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's the way to look at buying a house, to think, okay, what's the best investment strategy for this? No, just find something you like and live in it for a long time.
Is the properties you have in the UK, is that doing pretty good?
They are about to be remortgaged, which won't be so good. Yeah, that's why I say it. They were doing great. There's a lot of social housing that I do. Mm-hmm. So you get a guaranteed rent from the government, from the council. So even if it's empty, because I've got a 5-year contract with the council, local council, I still get money on it. So that's been quite nice. And there's a lot of ones like that I do. So I get universal credit if it's someone who can't afford it, and the government will give the money for it. Or I have a agreement with the local council where they say, okay, we'll give you a set amount, just make sure it's ours for 5 years, and then my agreement is with the government. Mm-hmm. I don't have anything high end, because I feel like even with my place at home, if I'm traveling and I want to Airbnb it out, I don't want that headache of my flat being touched or messed up. Just no. Yeah. So I'd rather just have the bare minimum and not take on too much hassle if something breaks or isn't doing well. That's the way I see it.
What's your thoughts on buying versus leasing a car?
Buying versus leasing. What do you usually do? Curious.
I buy.
Okay, yeah. That's what I was.
But I'm not a normal person, I don't think.
For people listening,
I've never bought something brand new.
Okay, perfect. Because what I was going to say is, the way to always go with a car is buy it outright if you can, secondhand, and 3 to 5 year old. That is like the sweet spot where it's depreciated enough at someone else's expense and it won't depreciate as much when you have it. If you are someone who doesn't mind making the less financial savvy choice and wants a nice, cool car every couple of years, but is happy to pay with the extra cost that comes with it, then rent. That's the mindset or the approach to take those two with. Mm-hmm. When it comes to rent, in the UK, there's different ways to rent. There's lease, PCP, getting a bank loan. The way to approach that, so it's like kind of like a graph. The way to approach that is think about how long you're going to have that car for and what the price is for owning it for that specific period. So the total cost of ownership. Figure out what the total cost of ownership is, calculate those out. Again, got a whole video on how to calculate it, and then go for the cheapest one. That is the mindset I would recommend.
I think, I mean, this is probably more applicable to men because of social media. Everybody seems to want to show off these days.
Yeah.
No doubt they'll want to get
Newer car.
as flashy a car as possible.
Yeah.
So realistically, what can somebody afford? Because I know some people have this way of thinking where if you can buy it over 5 times, or if you can buy it over 10 times, then realistically, okay, yeah, you can afford it. But if you're, spending half of your money on a car, obviously that's not a very sensible purchase.
Yeah. There's a recommended percentages for this. So it's 20 to 30% of your take home pay you can spend towards a car. 20% if you're being quite conservative and you're like, okay, like I think that's quite on the low end. 30% if you're like, oh, actually, you know what? I'm a bit of a petrol head. I like my cars. That's a recommended, but I don't like saying, okay, this is the percentage you have to stick by. Just think of it as, okay, that goes into your fixed costs, your needs. And that needs category as a whole should be 60% of your take home pay. Doesn't matter if it's 20, 30% towards a car. Doesn't matter if you want to spend 40% towards your car, but 20% on everything else. Just make sure that that category of all your needs is under 60% of your take home. That's the way I look at it. There are different guidelines, like the 24-10 rule, the 20% rule, the 30% rule, but I think that's the least restrictive and a way where you can enjoy your car without thinking, oh, like I can't enjoy life and I'm always saving and scrimping and can't even buy the things that I want to do. That's my recommendation.
Yeah.